Brennan, it's Medina. Let's do this thing. You here?
Our tale of the tape for this, our main event of the evening. We introduce the champion, Chris, the West Side Strangler Brennan. Let's get it on!
Hey guys, welcome back to the Strangler podcast. I'm here with my buddy, old buddy, Todd Medina. Me and Todd go way back. And so if you've ever watched me on anybody's podcast and talk about how I got started in the sport, I was at a club or at a bar that Todd and we were bouncing at, and the first UFC was on TV. I saw the first UFC on TV, and I instantly started training the next day. Todd started training. Todd was a lot bigger than me at the time. He was around 260, I believe, maybe more. And he was able to get in by UFC 5, and then I got in around UFC 16 when the weight classes started. So let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah, and old, maybe not so much old as an age, but old as in been around the sport since the beginning. Chris wasn't messing around when he said that. We were back started when there was like no gyms around. I mean, there was probably a realistic 3 to 5 black belts in the whole state of California when we started.
And they were all Brazilian at the time.
Yeah, and they weren't showing you nothing.
Yeah.
You'd work on one armbar for 1 month, and you paid top dollar, and they were showing you in the gi. Nobody was showing you like any of the good stuff. And then there was just a handful of us, literally, that started in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Started in it. Chris had to wait until, what'd you say, UFC 16 to get in, because there was no weight limit.
There was a 200 and under and 200 and over. And when I first started, I was just stopping bodybuilding, so I was about 220. Yeah. And once I started training within that first year, I was all the way down to 180, 185 pounds. And so I didn't even get in during the 200 under, 200 over. And then I happened to fight Militich twice at 185, just got walking around weight. And then the UFC came at 170 calling. And so that was the first time to cut weight, but that's when I was able to get in and go from there. At that time, you had already fought 10 UFCs ago.
It's crazy how fast that went. Yeah. And it was goofy how Chris said he came down from 220. Man, he used to be just swole. I don't know if there's any pictures or you can put this in the thing. He was just jacked. So to see him come from the 220 weight to him even fighting it in the 50s, it's just unbelievable to me. And he was just shredded. There's a picture, maybe you were fighting Gomi, I don't remember, but there was a picture you were taking plastics off.
Yeah.
Man, maybe it was your hamstrings or something. Gomi.
Yeah.
And he just lines everywhere. It looked like he was getting ready for a bodybuilding show. It was just great.
That was the best I ever looked. As long as you looked from my neck down, my face looked like I had been on drugs all night. But I was
just sucked
in
up.
shape.
It was a whole different thing.
So when you got into the UFC, you were training at that point with Kenny, right? You're training with Ken Gabrielson in a garage.
Yeah, and I love that guy for letting me do it.
Yeah, you're training in a garage, doing JKD, doing jiu-jitsu, doing all that stuff, and got into UFC 5. And if I remember correctly, that was in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah,
Charlotte, North Carolina. And you were in an 8-man tournament full of monsters.
Yeah, it was nothing. And you didn't know back then, there was no internet. I don't even know if we had cell phones back there, but there's no internet. You couldn't look anybody up or see. You just showed up and you're getting after it.
I don't even think you knew who you're fighting until you're there.
Yeah.
Like the brackets come out there, and it could have been anybody, right? And your first fight was Larry Curitin.
The super heavyweight kickbox champion of the world. I thought that guy was going to kick my head out of the cage.
He wanted to.
Yeah, big old mad black guy was just angry at the world.
And you end up, I don't know how many, if I can count right, but you headbutted him enough times to where your own eyes fell shut.
Yeah.
How many times? Do you know?
No, it's the record. I don't remember off the top of my head. It was like 38 or 42 or something like that.
Yeah, I knew it was over 20, close to 30 headbutts over and over and over again. And I was fortunate enough to be in his corner for that fight and was mind blown. Like he just hung out on top, just smashing him with headbutts. And the fight ended up getting stopped via TKO, right, from strikes? No, you end up choking him, right?
Yeah.
You end up choking him. And then back then, he got finished, and we went backstage to warm up, to cool down, to warm up, to fight again. And next round was David Beneteau, and I'm not sure who he fought first that night.
Yeah.
But he had already had a a fight. I think it was fairly quicker. He got in and out a little easier than you did. He didn't. And by the time you were walking backstage after your first fight, your eye was 3/4 of the way shut from the headbutts.
Done.
And then came back out to fight him.
Yeah.
That was
something back then, because you didn't know. Like, we weren't mentally prepared. Okay, you're going to fight 3 times in one night. Cool. But to actually do it, because as soon as I sat down just like this, backstage, you go, oh, you're back up. I'm like, no, I just need like a minute or two. You're going to forfeit if you don't go. And I was like, okay, let's go.
It happened so fast. And I don't even remember everyone in the tournament. I know Dan Severn ended up winning. He beat, after you fought David Beneteau, he beat Beneteau in the finals, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was stacked with big old boys.
Dude, yeah, that was some big men back in that day, on that card. They wanted the freaky, big-looking guys. Yeah, because that was after Chemo fought in 3, and he kind of set the standard. They wanted a big, freaky-looking guy with some tattoos, and boom, and so that set the pace from there.
Yeah. So from the UFC, where'd you go from the UFC? What was next for you?
That was the thing, because Chemo got picked up to go to Japan right after UFC 3.
Right.
So you wanted to go to Japan because you were making more money. They were paying you cash. It's just that's where it was, is Japan. Right. So I was fortunate with that. UFC 5 happened. I got that, and then Japan picked me up, Pancrase, and I was going there like every 6 weeks. It was a good gig.
That is nice.
Yeah, cash every 6 weeks for something you wanted to do.
So they paid cash in Japan?
Yeah, something. Yeah, that was.
It was wild fighting over there. I was telling a story the other day that when we fought in Pride, at the end of the night, we would go to the hotel and sit in the hallway of the hotel, and one by one they would call us in the hotel room, and they had a safe in the hotel room that I don't even know how they got in the hotel room. It was a monster, and they would just set the cash down on the counter and slide it across the table to you, and that's yours. And I was like, wow, like they paid in US dollars, and you're like, so you're supposed to claim $10,000 or more. How am I supposed to get this back? I watched Dan Henderson make $230 one time, and they gave it to him in a Disneyland bag in a bar in Roppongi. And I was like, I wouldn't even take that. Like, wait till you get back to the hotel, and it was just crazy how it was all handled. Everything was cash.
Here's a crazy story that Chris and I spoke about this a little while earlier today, that those times will never happen again, obviously, but how Chris just completely, that's exactly how it happened. He did it perfectly. They take the cash, put it on the table, and push it to you.
Slide it over. It's nuts. US dollars. Like, yeah, it was nuts. Pride actually, I don't know how Pancrase was, but Pride actually taxed you on the money when they paid you. So let's say you made $100,000, they take $10,000 right then. And so the second time I fought, I was smart enough. I renegotiated so that when they took the money, I was walking with what my contract was. I was walking with the money that I thought I was fighting for, because I didn't realize it till the first one happened, and they took a chunk, and I was like, oh, that's different. That's a whole purse a little while ago.
Yeah.
So you learn as you go, obviously, over there. But yeah, this is just crazy. So many great fighters and fights took place in Japan. Pancrase, when you fought in Pancrase, did you wear the booth and stuff that you, okay, so same as like when Ken Shamrock and Frank and Boss and all those guys did it. How was that?
Yeah, like I wouldn't want to do it again, but you were making good money for something you like to do. The rules were off, and when I got there, I was kind of pulled aside and said, hey, maybe don't fight so violent like how I like to get down, like soften it up a little bit. And then I was like, what? And then, but it worked out okay. Things happen the way they do. But like I would have much rather liked to gone your route to do the whole Pride thing, because that's where it's at.
So I got a funny story about my first fight in Pride, though. My first fight in Pride, you always wonder, what goes on in Japan. In my first fight, I had taken on 5 days notice, and they asked me to make the weight class at the time in Pride was 183 was their bottom weight class, and that's where like Anderson Silva, Baroni, all those guys were in that weight class. And I took a fight with Eiji Mitsuoka, and I showed up and I made 183, and they said, hey, he's a little bit lighter than that, can we get you down to 181? And I was like, so 2 pounds? They said, yeah. And I'm like, okay. I said, but I'm not in shape, like I just took this fight 5 days ago, I'll get those 2 pounds off. So I got the 2 pounds off. And then they came back and said, hey, he's a little bit lighter. Can we get you down to 180? And I was like, okay, is that it? And they're like, yeah. So I make 180, and they do it again. They said, hey, can we get you to 179? And I said, listen, if you want me to make 179, I need some sort of compensation. And they said, okay, so do you want to win the fight? And I looked at my brother, and I was like, what? And I was like, I knew that shit happened over here, you know? So I said, no. Like, and that's how I ended up signing a 4-fight deal with Pride. That was my compensation instead of having to work, right?
Yep.
Like, but right away they were just willing to offer it right then. I was like, no, I want to fight, but compensation, you know, financially or more fights, and so it worked out. But anything crazy for you over there?
Wow, here's a crazy thing that won't happen again, and not too many people, if any, people will talk about it at all, is that behind the scenes stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to give you 30 grand to lose. I want to give you 50 grand to win, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or
so that's up to you what you
yeah,
want to do.
yeah. How do you want to work this out on some fights? So you had to take it as a compliment if they came to you with that kind of offer,
right.
because it means you had a good enough name and your brand was good, you know, because they weren't offering out to everybody. So yeah, there's a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but there's enough behind doors agreements that were like that,
right.
kind of thing.
So real quick, we kind of jumped ahead to Japan and after the UFC, but training wise, back then you were training, started training with Kenny.
Yeah.
We're in the garage. Where did you go from there?
Unfortunately, one of Kenny's kids got cancer, so we weren't able to train as often, or pretty much, you know, how we need to get ready for that. So just here's one thing is about being a good person in the sport and in life. I had met Carson Gracie somewhere prior to all of this, and we clicked, and I did a private with Vitor Belfort.
Okay.
Just by letting a Brazilian stay with me one time, and long story, it'd take a while. So when all that happened with Kenny, they brought me up to Carson's. They go, I want to introduce you to him, and we met one more time. I was like, okay, I'm jumping back and forth a little bit. I had the very first Vale Tudo fight, no rules fight in Japan. So I beat a Brazilian that was the nemesis of Carson's school.
Got it.
And that automatically, boom, Carson was there. He had 3 guys. Valid was on the card, a couple other guys. And he was like, dude, Carson, I love you. You're with us now. And boom, so that opened the door. And then Carson brought me in, and I was the first American to train with Carson.
So I
Gracie.
remember it was you, Vitor, Carlon, Beto, Valigi. All those guys were trained up in Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
And I just knew you had, I had a good memory. But I knew you had like such a massive stable of killers that you were training with at the time, and your level skyrocketed because of that, obviously. Like, I think you're a blue belt or purple belt.
No, blue belt when I went with him.
When you went there, and, you know, all these guys in the room that are at the time black belt world champions. You know, Vitor was the only one I think that wasn't at that level. But I just remember you were up there all the time training with those guys, and that's how your game really expanded a lot.
6 days a week. I remember it was 2 hours up and 3.5 hours back, and it was really weird for my work schedule. I got paid to go train with him.
Oh, nice.
I worked for a
security.
No. I worked for like blood. They take your blood, but some of it for these labs needed to go to UCLA.
Oh,
and I'm like, dude, I'll take that.
I'll
And then so I got paid. That's another goofy long story. But like you say, nothing but a room full of killers.
Yeah.
We would go there, and John Peters, the guy who made Batman, was sponsoring Vitor. But like you had all these movie stars, and so Joe Rogan was there a lot, and Carson would kick everybody out, be like, you guys got to bounce because we're going to train. And these are like some famous people.
Right.
It was so crazy.
It didn't matter back then. Like,
yeah.
It was, you couldn't just look everything up on the internet.
Yeah.
So everything was behind closed doors. You
All
know,
of it.
You think back to like Hickson when he fought the guy in his gym, you know, it was recorded once by somebody, never got out, you know, and everyone had to leave the gym to while he fought him inside there. But you were up there with a massive group of guys, and that opened your door to fights, and like you in a fight in Brazil as well, right?
Yeah. I got fights all over the place from being on that team. And it was just straight, like, I've never been more nervous. Like, you're nervous. I'm nervous before a fight. It is what it is.
Training?
But I was way more nervous before training. There was nobody saying nothing. You could hear a pin drop. But, man, when that man said, you know, it's time to go, whew, there were some fights back, you know.
Yeah.
As we did.
Same as we did. To say,
Yeah.
I remember putting on my gloves, about to climb into your cage.
Yeah.
And the room of us, it wasn't that many of those guys, but it was probably worse because we were a little less experienced. So we were fighting
Killers.
and it was just a room full of killers that were training out of your place in Newport. Coast, Newport Beach, and a lot of great rounds. I would bring my guys down there.
Yeah.
Romy and Javi and those guys would come down there, Batiste, and then all of your guys, and we just round after round after round in this cage. And it was, again, those times like, and it sounds crazy now because I've got a kid fighting. So when we train, I want the guys to hit a little more on the ground and go a little harder. But at the same time, I don't feel like a body can do what we did anymore and keep fighting or keep training every day. We did it every day. So yeah, it was.
We fought every day.
Yeah,
we fought. We didn't train. We fought.
You put your gloves on and you're just like,
yeah. Just that right there.
And it doesn't matter who your next guy is because he's tough. Whether he's smaller, bigger, better, or worse, like it's going to be a fight over and over again. And that's how we did it day in and day out.
Yeah, every day. And that cage we trained at in my place on purpose. The bottom bar of that, I intentionally didn't put a pad on it.
Yeah.
So you either got good at takedowns and didn't get your head stuck in the bar, or got good at your defense off of that. Because, man, there used to be some blood in that cage.
Yeah, there was good spots in the cage. If you knew the cage, you wish fights took place in it. It was like when I fought Joe Stevenson, the cage that we fought in was in his gym. And once you close the gate, they put a crossbar in the gate. And I guillotined him, and he picked me up and ran straight for that bar, right in the center of my back. Boom, and hit it. And I ended up letting go of the guillotine. But, like, that's the benefit of knowing the cage. Later on I ended up with King of the Cage octagon in my room, and I would like go around and find everywhere that I could use against the person I was fighting. Matt Hughes, he used to get in the UFC cage and bounce around in the floor just to find where the crossbar was, the hardest spot in the cage, and he would pick you up in one spot and carry you to another and dump you right on the spot that had no give.
Wow.
But he was smart.
Yeah. And that takes not too many people know to do that.
No.
I mean, it's the small things that just add up at the end of the night. Yeah, the experience.
Did you get in a lot of street fights?
I mean, I did. I don't know if it was a lot, but I got in enough to where when the first UFC, like, that was so appealing to me.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to college at the time. I'm like, I stopped everything. This is what I'm going to do. Like, if it wasn't for the UFC, I don't know necessarily what I'd be doing. But yeah, so I'd been, enough of street fights. Not necessarily going out starting on them, but yeah.
Right. But it was different again back then. There were no cameras, no phones everyone pops up in recording. If someone said something, like pop, and moving on.
You could get in a street fight and it wasn't a big deal.
At all.
It was just a fight.
The cops could even show up and send you home.
We worked at a bar where the cops, I mean, I'm serious, but I'm joking. We'd go out in the parking lot and do whatever had to happen, and they'd show up and be like, you guys, don't be doing that jiu-jitsu stuff until we get here so we can watch. Yeah. They were so cool. And we'd just wrap dudes up or do whatever,
Yeah, that was one time I was telling the story earlier. Todd was looking for me, and he was inside working and I was outside working, and he came out looking for me, and I was around the corner in front of the bar, hooks in, had someone flat on their back, kind of smacking him and choking him, trying to hold him because there was two other guys fighting and they were trying to fight us, and let him end up, once it was all over, stood up and have a good night.
Yeah.
See ya.
Guys. I remember I walked around and Chris has this guy just hooks in, I'm like, yeah, that was the wrong bar to do anything in.
Oh yeah. There was a handful of really good guys.
Just good fight, like world-class fighters in that place. And it was just fun.
And all comes back to the same place I watched. The first one was on the TV there. I was like, okay, it's gone now.
Yeah.
It's something else.
It's no more.
It was a Margaritaville.
Yeah, Margaritaville, Newport Beach. Yeah,
Wild.
That place used to have and everybody was super cool. All of us, nobody really wanted to fight. It's just the place, not to start anything. That place was so cool.
I ended up, like, after I'd started training blue belt, I think, me, Mark Lehman, Mauricio Zingano, this kid Henry Akins, and Brock, all guys from Hickson's, and we ended up going out a lot. And I had bounced at Kokomo's for years, and we would go back there and just hang out because one of my best friends was the manager there, and we just always end up in fights there. Never starting them, but never backing down from them. And had I not had the experience that I have, I'd have probably gotten beat up a lot. You know what I mean? Because guys they try to punk you, and you either back down and walk away, or you end up fighting. We just fought a lot. It was wild.
Yeah, that Kokomo's. I remember I don't know what it was about that place.
Well, the problem was until 2 a.m. it was regular, but they were open till 4 a.m. and from 2 to 4 they stopped serving alcohol, but it was open like all the other clubs and all the other bars came there once it closed, but it was underage at that point. So anybody 18 and up, it didn't have to be 21, 18 and up could get in there. So, they would have black curtains over the French windows so that people couldn't see in. But like I would be working the bathroom, and all of a sudden looking across, kind of paying attention, all of a sudden I watched the curtain go boom out the window. And I was like, oh man. And someone had gotten thrown out the window in a fight. So I ran out there, and, a guy grabs a garden hose out of his truck and starts using it in a fight. It was just crazy, crazy stories back then. People got away with everything.
Yeah. That will never happen again.
No.
Those times are gone.
All right. So back to Hollywood and Carlson, and then fighting in Japan and some in Brazil. If you want to fill anything else in there, otherwise I want to jump to Russia.
I was supposed to fight in Russia before all this happened. I was with Carson, Vochanchin.
Mm-hmm.
It was all set up, and I went through the whole camp, and we were a week out from that fight, and somehow it got misconstrued to where they were $1,000 short on paying us. And I don't mean only, but it was only $1,000. I'm like, Carson, I'll give you the $1,000. And that guy was so like, no, your word is your word. They said it was going to be this, and they didn't say. So I did all that training. Like any fight camp's not easy, But like since I was his first American, you had to like prove a point. So I had to do everything double. So he pulled me out of that fight for a title fight in Russia. So that was my first chance. I kind of got to go there. That didn't end up happening.
You say they were short $1,000. You were lucky you're making $1,000.
Yeah, I'm
back then. I was like, I fought Joe Stevenson for $500,
and happy with it. It. These people complaining now about a guy being like a pound over, or like, $1,000 or $5,000 too light. It's like I was just happy to fight, right?
Sure.
And the guy weighed. I mean, it was kind of different for me than you, but I was like, if a guy was like 10 pounds over, it's like, or you didn't even care, just
I mean, a lot of times there wasn't a weigh-in until it was like an official weight class in the UFC or something. Otherwise, it was like, did you see him get on the scale? yeah, I saw it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
No one was taking a picture of the scale showing you. It was whatever.
Nothing.
So when you finally end up in Russia, were you still training with Carlson at the time when that happened?
Yeah, just not as much. I had my own gym where we were training in Newport. I signed a contract to fight for Terry, King of the Cage, a title fight.
They're on the up and up for sure. They're not shady.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This podcast is the best. So I signed that contract, and I was already in shape. I was in stupid shape, and Russia called me. You want to fight for the M1 heavyweight title?
Is that like M1 Global?
Yeah, like at Fedor's belt. I'm like, what? I'm like, that's like a big deal for me to get invited to that. And I'm like, heck yeah. It was like a week out. I mean, I knew what they were trying to do, get somebody last minute so you can go over there. How we know how that works.
Yeah.
But they didn't know I was in shape. They put a picture of me on the poster where my son was right around being bored. So I was kind of chubby. I was fat because I wasn't training. That was the picture they thought what I looked like. I'm like, yeah, I'll take the fight, no problem. Just like we were talking earlier in the seminar. Right. Whatever fight came through, bigger the better. Yes. I'll take it. Tomorrow, perfect.
Yes.
So I'm like, cool, I take that fight. And at the time, the girl I was dating, I told her I was going to take her to Hawaii or something that week because I've been fighting a lot. And whatever. So I'm like, hey, how about this? We're going to 86 Hawaii. I'm going to take you to Russia. So she's like, oh, okay, that's cool. So anyway, so we go to Russia. And not
Did you have a corner?
No, my chick.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah. And everybody thought I was being caught. And I was like, just the same me. I'm like quiet, like, hey, glad to meet you, this and that. And I wasn't being cocky. They were like, you bring this blonde chick with you to whatever. And to top it off, we're all going. They have these big buses, Greyhound buses, that take the fighters to the arena.
Yep.
So everybody's already waiting there, and I'm waiting for her because she's getting ready. A chick getting ready. I'm like, dude, hurry up already. So we're like 20 minutes late. Everybody's waiting for us. So I'm like, man, this is really not making me look good. We get in the van, and everybody's like mad dogging me. I'm like, oh. So we get to the arena. So we're the main fight of the night, which for the most part should be the last fight of the night.
Right.
Just promoters being promoters, because the mob was running it back then. They tried to do anything they can. Because when I got off the plane, they're like, who are you?
You looked much better than the guy in the picture.
Yeah, like my traps are all sticking up. I got a 6-pack.
You
I'm
were
like,
not supposed to
been
show up in
training.
shape.
Yeah, right. And they're like, what? So I'm not even ready. I'm sitting like this in the back. And then picture a Rocky movie. Like they put me in this locker room, like a 4x4 with a bathroom that's broken. It smells like what, I don't know, with water dropping from the ceiling. Cold as all get out. I'm just kind of kicking it back there, and I'm waiting for the end of the night. So when I know to warm up, they go, "You're up." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm up?" They go, "Yeah, you're up right now." So they move my fight from the end of the night when it should have been to like the second or third fight. I'm like, what?
Oh,
so I just
man.
put my stuff on. I didn't get to warm up or whatever. This guy's already sweating and ready to go. I'm like, you suckers.
Yeah, you know he knew already.
Yeah. So it was like set up like that. And I was just, I was in such good shape for that fight. Yeah, it was crazy. So I had to put that guy away like 2 or 3 times in that fight to win it. The first one was like, I want to say like under a minute. I'm like, oh, right on.
But it was over. It's supposed to be over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ref's like, no, you got to keep going. I'm like, what? I did. I put him away again. I'm like, he's like, no, again. I'm like,
Start to panic a little
Yeah,
bit. He's like, so there's really no way I can win?
I'm like, oh. So then finally, it was 3 times. The third time I put him away, and
How?
That was that. I think punches.
Striking him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
punches, kind of thing. And I was so nervous. I left the country early on that one because I thought I wasn't gonna leave that country.
Yeah.
So, and still today, I'm the first and the only American with that M1 belt or to win the Russian title.
Right.
So that belt sits in my house.
Sketchy.
Yeah.
We had an event like that we fought for in Juarez, Mexico.
Oh.
and our everyone won, but we had our first 3 guys ran through their guys. Our 4th guy is one of my students, Alex Surgicoff, Russian kid, tall, lanky, really, really good. And he fights a guy who later I think ended up going to the UFC, but they're 5-minute rounds, 3 5-minute rounds. He takes this guy down, mounts him, beating him up from the mount, like sitting up posture, beating him up, and the ref puts his arms under him and lifts him up to the feet and stands him up. And he's like, what the heck? And he goes again, takes him down, beating him up again, and the bell rings. And it's like 2 minutes and 46 seconds of a 5-minute round. So I'm yelling at the promoter that's sitting right next to us, concentrating on Alex, get him out. He goes out, same thing. And the round, I think, went 3 minutes and 10 seconds, 20 seconds. We had it all written down. And he was dropping the guy who was beating him up, and then they'd stand him up. And then he did it in the 3rd round, and nothing happened to him. Like, he dominated from start to finish. And when the bell rang, they stood him up and they raised the other guy's hand.
Wow.
And I lost my mind. And I lost my mind to the point where I am yelling at this guy loud, and it got quiet real fast in the place. And then I kind of went like this, and I realized I'm in Juarez, Mexico.
Yeah.
I should shut up. So I shut up. We went to the backstage. My video camera, our clothes, everything had been stolen. And so then I lost it again. We packed our stuff, went back to the hotel, and I was waiting with Greg Jackson to get paid. And he had guys on the card as well, and he was waiting to get paid. And it turns out that now all of a sudden there's guys after us because they had heard me. So thank goodness everyone was packed. We literally grabbed our bags, and from the venue or the hotel, we hustled with our bags all the way to the border. It was a couple miles, but all the way to the border, and just jumped across the border and,
Good job.
and spent the night in the airport and just waited for our flight out of El Paso. But at the time, I was just like, man, that was dumb. But we never got paid.
Yeah.
Over $4,000, I think, between the guys. It was like $4,000 or $4,500. Never got paid. And but that place is kind of like that place,
No,
kind of like
for
Russia.
real.
You don't want to, especially for a female, but you just don't want to be, when you're out of your country, shut up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not gonna get away with anything. And at the time, I was just so mad because round by round it was building, You know, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, no, what are you talking about? And then when he raised his hand, I was just like, I felt so bad for my guy.
Yeah.
You know, more than anything else, I felt bad for my guy, and because he had put in the work, and so it was just so frustrating. But that's how it is sometimes, and or back then, you know, especially. But it is what it is.
Things won't happen, can never happen like that again, because now there's a commission.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know the commission down there, Mexico.
No, I don't. Not in Mexico. I didn't go back.
Okay. Oh, okay.
We fought there. I fought in Tijuana twice, and then fought there twice, and that was the end of Mexico. Yeah, I didn't want to put anyone at risk by going back down there. Name's probably on a beep, 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 as I cross the border.
It's different now. It's different. But like I keep saying this, and there's only less than a handful of people, you being one of them, that know that. Like Juarez, Mexico. Yeah. Like you're lucky on the real. I'm lucky. We're lucky we got out of that country. You can't talk to people like that down there.
No.
You know, what you did, you can't do.
Yeah.
You know, and it could have
I don't remember what I was saying, but I'm sure I was threatening him.
Yeah,
you know,
I can almost,
I was threatening him, and I'm like, okay, so.
Because those are like your kids.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, my fighters?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
For real. And nobody's going to do that. And
no. You're not going to let them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I fought twice in Mexico. I was fortunate enough. Both times I fought in Tijuana, I fought in Juarez, and I fought Shannon Rich both times. I don't know how it happened, but I fought Shannon both times. So I never fought any of the people from Mexico, but all my fighters did.
Yeah.
You know, Ian McCall, Brad McCall, Alex Surgicoff, Russ Mira, like all those guys fought down there, and they fought locals. Tough guys.
Yeah.
But I never did.
Good for you.
We were walking to the cage, and they were throwing beers and stuff at us while we're walking out. It was wild.
It's serious.
Yeah, wild times.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't even imagine Russia.
Yeah, same thing they were throwing. Yeah, I remember that.
You're the outsider.
Yeah. Yeah, having a whole arena, like not liking you. You're like, I didn't even do anything. I'm just here to fight.
Like, I would hate to fight in Brazil now. Like, I fought in Brazil when I was down there, and it was cool. I was with all the Gracies and all the guys from Alliance, and I was the cool guy. But if you just were to go down there, or like someone like Connor who badmouthed Aldo for so long, I would hate to go down there and fight. I would hate to go out afterwards.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be in my room chilling.
Yeah. The fight game is so different than anything.
So what did you do after that? Did you fight after Russia? When did you end up going to Brazil?
Well, the dumb thing, so right after Russia, I've got that fight for King of the Cage. Mm-hmm. I come back, I'm jet lagged. I'm like, dude, I am beat up. And so I tell the promoter for King of the Cage, I'm like, hey, like, I don't want to do this, you know. But it's a week after, and I gave my word. I signed my contract. He's like, hey, but we're boys, and, you know, you gave your word, da-da-da. I'm like, okay. So I take that fight. I lose.
Who'd you fight there?
Vernon.
Okay.
So I lose that fight, which I should have won, but whatever. The promoter walks in the cage and says, shouldn't have taken the fight. I'm like...
Do we have this conversation already?
Yeah. So always look out, like you coaches, always obviously look out for your guys. Like Chris was just saying, he was in Mexico, sticking up for his guys. Or if it's not the right time, or if you're sick or you're injured, don't fight.
But for me and you, we were our guy.
Yeah.
Like, you were your guy, I was my guy.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't have someone to do that. And that fight, man, that was like one of the most depressing things for me, because literally a minute before that, I knocked out Antonio McKee.
Yeah.
And I was on a high, and you were one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, man, because I thought for sure you had him, but I didn't know the story before that because we weren't training at the time. Yeah. And I didn't know that you had gone, you know, and fought in Russia yet or anything like that. And I was so bummed for that fight. You know, I would have loved to see it run back, you know, but I'm sure they were good.
Yeah, we tried.
We're not going to do that again.
Yeah, we tried.
Yeah. Rough night.
Yeah. But that fight specifically, that fight you had with Antonio.
Yeah.
Man, Chris head kicks this dude, and like world class wrestling, put that guy away.
Yeah.
Your stock went through the roof after that.
It did, and to be honest, I had knocked out a couple guys in camp leading up to it with head kicks, and that wasn't even my thing, right? Like, jiu-jitsu was obviously my thing, but I had been training with Marco Huas.
Yeah.
So I've been throwing a lot of leg kicks, a lot of head kicks, and I had knocked guys out. I had gotten kicked in the head the week before the fight, and I was training with Marco and Buck Greer in Marco's garage, and we're banging it out, and the next thing you know, I'm standing in the corner pulling my pants up, and I look around, and I'm like, what are we doing here? And like, what do you mean? I was like, where are we? And they're like, Marco's garage. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah. So I finished getting dressed, and I was like, can't even tell where we're at. And I said, how'd I get here? And they said, you drove. And Marco goes, maybe you got knocked out. And I said, how? And he goes, head kick. And I said, you kicked me in the head? And he goes, no. And Buck goes, and like looks down. I was like, you did? And then I was like, oh, I remember you kicking me in the head, and I chopped his leg right after. And that was all I remember. I went 5 more rounds, subbing him, subbing Buck, and doing everything. And then as I was getting dressed, just snapped out of it. They opened the garage. I couldn't tell you what car was mine. And they drove, Buck ended up having to drive me home. And I had him drive me to my mom's house. I was hanging over at my mom's house. So I went over there and hung out. And I never was nauseous, never was sick, just had a 30-minute, don't remember anything. And my hip had been hurt from Marco kicking me. And I could barely lift my leg up. And somehow randomly I threw that thing and was able to knock him out with it. But he was such a good wrestler. He'd taken me down the first round 3 times, and I couldn't get up. I couldn't sub him. You know, I wore a T-shirt in the fight, which was like the stupidest thing ever. But walking out, I was panicking because I had heard he had trained with all these good black belts and no one submitted him. They said he's real slick, he's real slippery. So I'm like, what do you think if I wear a shirt? And I, you know, I was the guy. So like, sure, bro, whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know,
nobody's going to tell you no.
Right. So they should have, especially now that I have pictures of me kicking someone with a T-shirt on. But I said, okay. So I walked out and fought in a Huas Valley Tudo shirt, and Marco was out with knee surgery. So it was cool. I was just wearing his shirt. But I couldn't do anything the whole first round. He didn't really hit me or anything, but he was just so strong. So I went back to my corner and I was like, cheer me. I was like, I can't sub him. I can't set up anything. He goes, knock him out. And 9 seconds in, I threw a uppercut left hook and then just wham, head kick. And I was like, holy smokes, I couldn't believe it landed, you know? And he hates me for this, you know? And I mean, bro, like I've lost 11 guys beat me. I don't dislike him. Like it wasn't like I picked you of all people. You know, he punked me. I got on the scale at weigh-ins and he shoved me off the scale and then stepped on the scale, asked to go winner takes all, you know, and was like, and I didn't have bad blood. They just wanted me to lose. You know, they brought in Joe Stevenson first, then him, and they're all out of the same gym, just trying to keep getting me beat. And I won, but like I like him. I brought him actually to a camp in Big Bear with me. Him and Joe Stevenson were helping me get ready for a fight. And then I later hear him on a podcast saying he got a gun and a silencer, and a friend had to talk him down from coming to find me because he found out where I lived. And I was like, what? I was like, he told me that he was upset and like he didn't leave his house for a while, but like, okay, I understand I was your first loss or whatever, but you had more. Do you want to kill them? You know, I had more. I don't want to kill them.
It was so weird with that because I spoke to him maybe a year ago or something. I don't know what it was. Oh, you're Brennan's boy. Like he's still somewhere down there a little bit.
Yeah. He wanted to fight me, you know, numerous times after that, but guys were like, we'll give you $1,500. I was like, bro, first of all, I either lose a decision, you know, because he's very capable of beating me that way, or I somehow like lightning's on to strike again, you know. So for $1,500, it's not worth it. You know, I can give me 10 grand, I'll fight him.
Yeah.
You know, at that time. Now it would take more than that. I'm 50 years old. but no one was offering anything big for the fight. And to have a finish like that, why would I fight him again? You know, why would I give him the opportunity
Smart answer.
Put on my record I've got a decision loss to a guy, you know, that I had such a great highlight knockout of. And you know, again, I like him and wish that he didn't have ill will toward me. And it's unfortunate because his kid is the featherweight champ in Bellator now. And Lucas's first fight, you know, he sits down in the interview before the fight and they're like, so, you know, what do you think, you know, with the storyline of since your dad knocked out Anthony McKee of you and AJ McKee? And he's like, I'm 0-0 and he's 15-0. I was like, probably not going to happen for a long time, you know, like, why are we talking about that?
What another smart answer.
Yeah, you know, he's a smart kid, but like, he's not calling anybody out. But yeah, it's just people want to see, you know, that type of thing. And it's down the line if you know, years down the line, I don't know if AJ's going to move up a weight class or if he's switching.
Yeah, if at all, there's so many things that can happen by then.
Yeah, for sure. And he's a stud, man. He's a great fighter.
Yeah.
You know, his dad was good. He's way more well-rounded and dangerous in a lot of places.
Yeah, that he is.
So, anyway.
Yeah, goofy. But okay, so backing up a little bit, that training where you got head kicked and you're like, what the heck? Where am I kind of thing?
Yeah.
and then you fought obviously
A
a week later and won.
Definitely shouldn't have.
You know, like it's like what the heck. So like, you need the proper coach, and coach, you really need to be looking out for your guys because of getting that. I mean, that's just mind blowing. I didn't know that story.
Yeah,
I didn't know that story.
Yeah, for whatever reason, we had trained together a lot leading up to that, and then didn't, and then we trained again a lot, like before I fought Steve Berger. And I'd done so much grinding in your fence. That was my only decision win, but I put him on the fence and beat him up the whole time. But it all, went back to the training at your gym. But yeah, the training back then was different.
Yeah.
It was different.
We just fought, and nobody got hot-headed or...
No, never.
And there was big names still. Well, we were big names back then, but it would show up all, like, just through the grapevine. People would hear about this. I remember guys would show up to come and train and be like, no, I'll be over here on the mat doing whatever I'm doing. Yeah. Because that cage was just...
They either do one round and not jump back in, or watch a round and be like, I'm going to...
I'll be over here. There's Matt over there.
Go do some jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, cool. That was just straight bananas. And you had a team. You know? Like you created some monsters.
So that was kind of what I was saying earlier at that seminar. I didn't have a coach after Blue, so I made my guys as good as I could, as fast as I could. Yeah. So I had a good training partners, you know, and like Jeremy, I turned into a monster. Tracy, Bow, Buck, Adam, like all those guys were savages. And it went from where I was running everyone over to all of a sudden there was competition in the room. You know, it's all of a sudden I'm like, okay, now we're all on the same page here. And so, that was my way of doing it. But at one time, I had 20 pro fighters fighting out of my gym, and I was never home. Like, that's why my gym went downhill for a while because I was gone. I was gone for a couple of weeks making $250 off of their fights. You know what I mean? And I was married at the time, so that wasn't super awesome. Anytime I came home, I was like, hey, I made $500 while I was gone to Hawaii and Guam and here and there. And here's the percentage that I got, you know, and the guys didn't pay to train. They just kicked me a percentage of the fights. So, but had I been like, and I'm sure you too, had I been independently wealthy, I'd done it all for free. Yeah. You know, I'd still be teaching for free right now and have my gym for free. If I just had the money, I would be teaching anyway because it's so fun, man. I enjoy coaching and teaching and training and whatnot. And so, you know, like my kid's a full-time job. Yeah, he's a full-time job for me. Like I'm training him all the time. I'm hustling for sponsors. Yeah, you know, hustling with Bellator, getting stuff done. But it's a full-time gig. I don't take a penny from him. I just let him say
that's so cool.
You know, but if you think about like a manager's job or an agent or whatever, they're banking. You know, off the big name guys for sure.
For real. And that's like, how cool is that? To that you're, I mean, not that you're not making money, but you could care less. Look what you produced. Yeah. Like he's a polite, just great kid. Yeah. Crushing it in the cage. You know, like everybody likes him. Look, that's that comes from you, Dad.
It's been awesome. You think about when you talk to your students, you know, and you're like, hey, just listen. Hey, just listen to what I'm telling you. This is how good you can be. Well, I've got the kid that listened, you know, and two of them that listened the whole time, and everyone's like, oh, it's because they're your kids. Well, they didn't get genetically good jiu-jitsu, right? They trained it, and they trained everything, but they listened, and they did the things that I keep telling you to do, you know, and they didn't put in that many more hours than you. You were there every day, but, you know, people don't listen to everything and do all the work, and so there ends up being a real big gap, you know, and for him, he's a good kid, good-looking kid, real hard to dislike. You know, he's polite in his interviews afterwards, and he's honest about it. He's not like blowing smoke. You know, he's not trying to call anybody out. He's happy to be there. I don't know. In his last interview, he must have said, "I'm happy 5 times in a 30-second period. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to keep fighting for Bellator. I'm happy to, you know, I'll be back. I'm happy to get the opportunity." Yep. And that's real. You know, that's him being real. And I love it because I was nice, but I had an edge. You know, and I always end up having, you know, some bad blood with the guy I was fighting sometimes or whatnot. Like me and Thomas Denny had bad blood and we squashed it. And he was also someone that came up and helped me for a fight. But me and Joe Stevenson had real bad blood, you know, and it just, you know, squashed it later. But I was real focused and wanted to do well. So get out of my face, get out of my way and you know, whatever. And he's just like the most laid back kid ever. And Tyler will be the same way when he starts.
It's his turn.
You were chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were chill.
Like that.
But your fuse was like this short also. So you pulled that off really well by being a nice guy, because you're a nice, genuine guy, but you had like a very, very short fuse too, to where you were real. Just like I was talking. Quick story. We're at Casper, Wyoming at UFC 6, and neither one of us are fighting, but we know a guy fighting, and we're in a hotel room, and whatever. And me and Todd are having a conversation like this. We're enjoying ourselves, and I said something, he said something. I put my hands up, like, let's go, and he goes pop, pop, and punched me straight in the face twice, pop, pop, and my lip was bleeding. I was like, bro, I was playing, like, relax. And he goes, I was playing, and he was playing just different than I was playing. And I was like, okay, but he was, people talk about how real I am, and honest and upfront about everything, and I'm going to tell you how it is, and whatever, and I'm going to fight you at the drop of a hat if it gets to that point. And that was, I don't even think you wanted to fight. You were just playing roughhousing.
Yeah. Like I'm either like, there's no middle road. I'm either like this is my boy right here. Like I don't want to, like friends that fight friends. Sometimes how that works out, I can't do that. But not that I wanted to fight you or whatever, but yeah, it's just like you can trash talk with the best of them. If somebody wants to get after it back and forth, I can't do that. It's not my style. So
you're just gonna smack them.
Yeah, I'm like, let's just go then. Like the thing with weigh-ins or whatever, people talk this and that, or push. You touch me or say the wrong thing, then we're going right now.
Yeah, I was very odd because I, as feisty as I was at the same time, I was so nervous all the time. I was so nervous before my fights. And just played it off, and when he pushed me, I just got more nervous. Dude, when they announced my name, I was about to walk out. I turned and puked in a bucket, and then walked out and fought him, knocked him out. I puked before majority of my fights, but I was always just so nervous. And now that I was nervous to get hurt, I wanted to win so bad, and I had a gym and didn't want to show up on Monday.
Yeah.
And in my head, no one was going to show up on Monday if I lost, right? Yeah. Even though I was the one putting it on the line at all the time, 36 times.
On everything.
Yeah. So, of course, they were going to be there, but it just in my head, I was always nervous and wanted to win so bad that I just got like way inside my head. Later on, got over it, saw a guy, sports psychologist.
Oh, very
And that
cool.
helped a lot. And then I visualized a lot more. And then I was like walking out to the cage with smiles on my face. That was a different story. Took a long time to believe how good I was.
Yeah.
A long time.
And look, okay, like you said, it took all that time or a long time, and now you can pass it off to your sons or your fighters. Obviously, you've been doing that, but like nobody taught you that. Like you had to learn that.
Yeah.
That's such a big deal.
It's a hard road.
Yeah, find that coach. Like obviously, if you're in Texas, like on my social media, if people ask me different states or whatever, anybody in Texas, there was a guy that came to the seminar earlier today.
Yeah, that was cool.
You got to go see Chris. I've been telling him that for probably the past year and a half.
Nice.
But like you have to find that coach, not any coach, but that coach. Keep looking.
That cares.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
There's too many guys that'll just throw you to the wolves, or don't care. And you're the guy who cares.
I do.
For real.
That for my students.
Yeah,
like,
I
almost had to fight Guy Mesger when I first moved here at a jiu-jitsu tournament because he got into it with one of my jiu-jitsu guys, and the next thing you know, we're this close to each other, and he's in my ear, and I'm like, man, how did this happen? Like, we just got here. This is the first tournament I ever brought my guys to, and he leans on me and kind of shoulders me, and I shoulder him back. I said, bro, like, don't. And it ended up getting separated, and I walked away. I was like, dude, how'd that even happen? And later on, we ran into each other at a Dallas Dynamite, a wrestling place, and he goes, he walks in, and I was like, shit. And he goes, you want to go in there and talk? And I said, sure. And we go into an office that has a window, but there's no glass, so it's open. I was like, why do we even come in here? So we go in here, and I'm looking out there, and he goes, hey, I just want to tell you, I respect you and whatever. And I said, me too.
Right on.
I've watched you. He fought in Pride when I did. And I said, to be honest, you were getting into it with one of my guys, and I just moved here. I had to,
for real,
get back in your face when you got in my face. Whether you win or I win, I'm not going to just let it happen. I had to.
Good job.
And we were cool, super cool after that. He's a good dude. Yeah. But he's real, he's a hard guy to all those lines. Then guys were
there. You go.
They were tough to figure out. Are we cool? Or are we not cool? They're like, you know, a little arrogant, but good dudes.
Yeah, they followed suit from Kenny.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know if any of them were that arrogant.
Yeah,
they were.
Yeah,
crazy.
Different group.
So, what was next after we started to get to when you went to Brazil?
Yeah. Same stupid thing. You and I being you and I get this fight. I'm over here crushing it. Vanderlei Silva's over in Brazil crushing it. I get a call from Pride saying, okay, want you two to fight. And then whoever wins this fight is going to start making some money. I'm like, let's do this. So they put the fight together in Brazil.
What was it? World Valley Tudo or something down there, or not? Was that already over?
It could have been.
Yeah.
I should Universal or World.
Was there a net around the bottom of the ring, or was there not one? Do you remember that?
No.
Like Chuck went down there
I
and
think
fought
there was...
Pele down there and had him on the ground with the head was in the net, so you couldn't fall out of the bottom of the ring.
I'm sure it was. Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
That fight. I don't remember much of that fight.
Yeah.
So I go down there, kind of the same scenario as Russia. I get off the plane and they're like, what's this guy? You know, whatever.
Right.
So I had to give him my passport. That's kind of weird. You know, it's just the whole scenario was set up. So it was like.
Hold on to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't leave.
Yeah.
They're like, you're fighting Vanderlei Silva. Give us the passport because when you see him, you're going to want to leave. We're not going to let you.
Well, here's the thing. They wouldn't let me go to weigh-ins because that was the most swole I've ever been. I was like just in shape for I wasn't allowed to go to weigh-ins, any of the TV, nothing. Just stay in your room. Like nothing I couldn't do. So Romy went with me. It was like, say, Friday night, like 2, 3 in the morning. I'm hungry. We fight Saturday night.
Right.
So we'll go walk the streets, can't find anything. I call room service. Hey, can I get a turkey sandwich? They bring it up. I eat it. Like 3 hours later, I just got food poisoning like it's my job. I'm like, oh, man, it's not good. Just throwing up like crazy. Call the promoter. He shows up. It's like 7, 8 in the morning now. He's like, hey, you're green. I'm like, let me tell you. I go, I gave you my word. I'm still going to fight. He's like, right on. Cool.
Right on. Perfect.
So the day goes by. It's now Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. They come pick me up. I'm throwing up in the hotel room on the way to the arena, at the arena, walking to the ring. Yeah, it was so bad. I couldn't warm up for more than like 10, 15 seconds without throwing up. It was just so bad. And I knew the results, but I knew if I could pull this off somehow, I was making paper.
Right.
So first round, I didn't even know it was for sure underneath a minute. I get double collar tie up. Boom, take a knee to the face, a couple of them. And now
fractured orbital.
Yeah, so it goes behind my eye and down my cheek. So for a year, I BS you not, a year, I had to wake up, crack my door, crack my door, because I was seeing in threes.
Light in slow?
Yeah. And it was like crazy. I was like, man. So I go to the eye doctor. This is like a year later. He's like, we can take your eye out and patch all up and put screws and all that kind of stuff, but you can't fight anymore. I'm like, well, shut right. Who are you kidding?
Talking to?
I'm like, I'm cool with seeing doubles. Let's run this. So I didn't get it fixed. It's still not fixed. And that was that. I tried to get that fight back too.
Yeah.
Him and
Japan.
Anywhere. Yeah, I'm like, I'll fight for cheap. I'll fight for free. They can take my money, whatever. I was like,
people don't understand now. I think that how many fights were taken because you needed the fight.
Yeah.
You know, more like nowadays they'll drop out of fights, they'll get on the next card or whatever, but we were fighting to live, right? Like we were fighting to eat, to pay for my family, to pay for, you know, your gym, you know, whatever. Like the students weren't covering it. We were covering it, right? And be honest.
Yeah.
And so there were so many excuses that you could use, you know what I mean, for a fight, but or for a loss, but in reality there was always so much BS that went on with the promoters and stuff, depending on where you fought, that you got railroaded one way or the other and kind of pushed into the direction the fight was going to go, whether it was going to go that way or not. You know, like, oh, you're going to win, watch this. You know, you look like you're going to win, we're going to put it a little, you know, make it a little more difficult. When I fought Miletich the second time, first time we had a draw, and it was, dude,
that's huge.
It was my fourth fight.
That's huge.
It was his 24th fight.
Yeah.
And I was a blue belt, and I didn't know shit. You know, I was a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. And they fly me to Iowa, and I fight him in a baseball stadium. And like Royce Alger, he wrestled for Iowa.
Yeah.
He walks by and smacks me on the back, and he says, "Hang on there, sissy boy." And I was like, okay. You know, and I was like, holy smokes. And there were people blowing smoke in my face as I was walking to the cage. But we went at it for 20 minutes straight in one round, and it went to a draw. Well, the second time we fought in a boxing ring in a bar that Pat bounced at, that his best man was a referee. No lie. And Monty says, hey, do you want to know who the judges are? And I said, no. And he goes, good, because they're all related to Pat. He was just joking, but he goes, good, because they're all related to Pat. Well, we were judged on the striking and aggression on the feet, the wrestling, and then the striking, the aggression, and the submission attempts and stuff on the ground. There was 3 deals. And on the feet, first punch of the fight, I cut him open, and I land, he takes me down. We're on the ground, and I'm attacking for 9 minutes go by, and I'm like, you gonna stand us up, And we're trying, but Pat's not doing anything but holding me and bleeding on me. So it got so bad, Pat knows the story, I took my thumb and I put it in the cut and was trying to rip his cut open on his eye.
Good job.
And he goes, Brennan, that's a pussy way to win a fight. I was like, bro, so is laying on top of me, not even trying to punch me.
Yeah.
They end up standing us up, and I landed a really good right hand to put him on the ropes, and threw a 3-punch combo, and then he shot and took me down again. And again, I'm attacking for the rest of the fight, and it was a 30-minute round, one round. I lost 11 pounds in one 30-minute fight, and the fight ended. And there were 2 judges from there, and then Noe Hernandez, who was a fighter. Noe gave it to me, and the other 2 judges gave it to him.
Yes, sir.
Lost a split decision. And I was like, I don't know where those 2 judges were from, but like judging off the things that you said, I won the fight. And they didn't even have me winning the striking, and he hadn't landed anything on the striking on me in that fight. The first fight he did, and in the UFC we both landed 1 on each other, and then we were on the ground again. But we have an hour's worth of fighting together. 1 hour, one dude, and. But that, I'm sure he got a decent amount of experience out of that fight, or those 3 fights with me, but not like I did. I was so early on that set me up, I just fought a 20-minute fight and a 30-minute fight on my 4th and 5th fight of my life. So I got the experience with one of the best guys in the world at the time.
The best.
Yeah, he was
the
best.
The best. Yeah, don't cut yourself short.
And it was just crazy, but we like, you fought Vanderlei, you fought the guys you fought in King of the Cage that were actually sent over from Pride, the guys you fought in Japan. We fought the best guys early on, early on in our careers. And I don't know how many fights you had when you first started fighting those guys, but not that many.
Yeah, no.
And they definitely had the experience, but at the time we were just sign me up, we'll take that fight.
And there's probably 5 of us.
Yeah.
You, Tank, Lober, me, and somebody who just went to prison. He's got like the most MMA fights.
Oh, Travis Fulton.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Oh, he's dead.
Yeah, he killed himself in prison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
That guy's got over 200 fights.
Right.
We fought on a couple cards together, fighting for Extreme Challenge Monty's show.
Oh, okay.
Tough dude, but yeah.
Yeah.
He fought Jeremy Horn. Jeremy Horn also fought a lot.
Okay, yeah. I forgot about Jeremy. Yeah.
110.
But guys that would call, you get called today, you want to fight tomorrow.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Oh, cool.
I cornered Jeremy once. Monty calls me and says, hey,
Jeremy Horn?
Jeremy's on his way to California to fight John Marsh. Will you corner him? And I was like, sure. So I cornered him, and he won. But he came back to the corner between rounds. He goes, you think I won that round? Or what do you think? And he's just standing there. I'm not even in the cage. He's talking down to me, having a conversation. But it was obvious the experience he had because he was so chill. And I was like, who is this guy? I later cornered him when he rear naked choked Chuck. Not rear naked choke, he arm triangle Chuck. And put him to sleep. And I was in his corner for that, which was
that's
cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a bittersweet though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Jeremy a lot, but Chuck was Chuck.
Yeah. Chuck is
actually Chuck became Chuck after that fight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had won some fights, but not like he did after that. He went on a run after that for a long time.
Love that guy.
That was like UFC 19 or 20.
Yeah. And we're at what now? 270? 271?
272, I think. They're now about to be 273.
Okay.
And Bellator is the same, so they've caught up fast because they just had Lucas, I think, was 272, and they're now tonight, I think, is 276.
That's bananas.
Yeah, I think his next one will be 280.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's going to be so cool watching that kid goes through his career.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I'm going to have him on. We talked about some of the stuff that he does and the way he handles the game itself. Doesn't get involved, doesn't watch fights. You know, the only time he watches fights is if it's like a big fight and I tell him to come out and he'll come sit on the stairs and watch it, or like if there's his opponent, when we get him, I'll send it to him. He'll watch it once or twice, and then that's it. And then just up to me and his boxing coach to put the game plan together and whatever. But at the moment, you know, the game plan, everyone knows it, but it's so hard to stop.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
one of those things you had. We were talking about the a submission tournament you did, the Worlds, I think.
Yeah.
Where he came up and he said, "I knew you were good, but I didn't know you were that good."
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing.
Pablo Guilabel.
Yeah. There you go.
Pablo Guilabel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he showed up. I had won the first 2 years before that, and he shows up and says, "Oh, hey, thanks for showing up." And I was like, "We're in the finals." Like, what do you mean? He goes, "I just wasn't sure if you'd show up." And I was like, "Okay, I won the last 2 years. Like, of course I'm going to be here." He goes, "Okay." So I beat him, and then we're standing upstairs, and he's just like, looked like his puppy just died. And I was like, "You good, dude?" He goes, "Man, I didn't think you were as good as you were.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't. I underestimated you." And I was like, "Well, I knew you were really good, so I was prepared. I was nervous. I was ready to go, but I knew you were good."
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Yeah," and just didn't, zero credit. I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
it is what it is."
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
That's all that really matters.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with Lucas.
Yeah.
Train, he's super respectful.
Yeah.
You know, you can't like think like, "Oh, I'm going to get through that," or it's
I
not
don't
gonna do
think
what it
anyone's
is.
going to get to talk him into trash talking.
That's so
You know?
good.
He had his second amateur fight. Kid walked into weigh-ins, is doing this to him, and punking him, and I said, "Don't even look at him. Don't even look at him."
Good
And I'm
job.
worried because
Good
like he's never even been in an argument before. I don't want him to like cower when the guy gets like that. You know, I wasn't sure how he would be, and he laughed at him. And then they went up after the weigh-in, and he reaches over to shake the kid's hand, and the kid won't shake his hand. And Luke looks at the crowd and he goes and shakes his own hand, and
Right
everyone
on.
laughs, and the kid
Right
walked
on.
off, and Luke just walked off. I was like, "Good luck getting
Right.
this kid to be a trash talker with you, or get into a scuffle with you." You know, he's like, "No matter what you say or do, we still have to fight tomorrow night."
Yeah,
you know,
that's the thing.
You still have to get in the cage and fight me. So, say all you want.
Chris, how long have you had your school here?
Here in Texas, 10 years.
This is a beautiful facility. This
Thank
thing's
you.
so good.
Thank you. It's been awesome. We started in a small location across the street for 1 year, but like halfway through that year, I was already busting out of the doors,
Which you do well.
and then came over here and really exploded. I was telling you, when I first moved in here, I was making enough to cover the rent, but not to make a dollar, not to pay the utilities, not to pay coaches. You know, so the first 4 months was out of pocket, just trying to keep it all. But it just grew and grew and grew really fast. And I had some guys, you know, other people come around and, "Oh, you went too big. You know, you'll never be able to make it." And 10 years later, I'm still here, and
Yeah.
I have a lot of students and successful. And it, you know, all my business was trial and error. You know, I started in a nice gym,
Yeah.
and it ended up being me and my boys training my guys, training for fights, and end up closing it because I wasn't making enough money to survive. End up going to my garage. I had a sweet garage, and
No, I don't. Sorry to get off topic. I don't know how that 3-car garage.
Yeah,
I don't know
so-
how you pulled that off.
I had in my apartments, there were 3 garages in each one door or 3 doors, but as
Yeah.
you open it inside, it's all one, and that's how it was set up. And so I got one, and then I went to the managers. There was no one ever parking in the other 2. I said, is there no one in there? They're like, "No." I said, "Can I rent those?" And so I paid $50 a month per extra garage. So I paid
Wow.
$100 a month for a 3-car garage that I grew to 70 students. You know, I'd have 20, 30 guys in there at nighttime and training, and they were just parking all over the place in the apartment complex. And we trained just like always. We had murderers in there,
Yeah.
you know, a killer room.
Yeah.
And then I got to the point where I could get into another gym. I moved into like a 2,000 square foot gym, trained in there, that green one, until it.
Were you at tournaments? No. Did you
Yeah,
used to have
I
tournaments
started
there?
my tournaments
Okay,
there.
Yeah.
And you did one, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then grew out of that, and then right around the corner next to Outlaw Off Road, I had a
Oh.
big 6,000 square foot place, and that was where I put the cage in and had everything. And from that point on, I just been, you know, rolling.
Hustling.
Yeah,
I remember you
always
used
a
to have the big
Expedition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jacked up.
Big jacked up. Outlaw Off Road did it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You've
Crazy
done so
times.
well with that. Like your business savvy is super good. I give you credit for that.
Street smarts.
Yeah.
Man, for me, street smarts was better than book smarts, just because I I didn't have a hard time figuring out most things, but the people who tried to swindle one way or the other, I was always savvy enough and smart enough to know, no, that's not right, and no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I was teaching for Terry one time at Cardio Fit, and we were splitting 70-30. I had 70, he had 30, and that was my rent, and I was just growing. And he brings me to lunch one day, he says, hey, let's have lunch, and he says, we're going to switch it, and I'm going to take 70, you're going to take 30, but I'll quadruple the advertisement. And I said, so it'll take me 3 times to get what I was getting? And he goes, yeah, but it's going to grow big. And I was like, no, bro, like what? And they just thought I would be like, yeah, okay, that works, And I had someone who was involved in my gym when I first moved here, and he invested in it. And I'd never had an investor. I've always been on my own.
Yeah.
But he was the one who invested and wanted me to open a gym. So I did it. And then it wasn't going well. And he goes, hey, this is the thing. He goes, we're going to take over your gym and name. We're going to pay you 10% forever. And you just don't have to pay anything. And I go, bro, like, what do I look like to you? This is my life. This is my whole life. It's been on my back. It's on my arm. Next Generation MMA has been since 97. It's what feeds my family. It's what feeds me. I was like, you could offer me $1 million right now, and I'm going to say no. You want to pay me $1 million a year, and we're in a contract for a long time? Okay. But otherwise, you're literally taking everything that I've got, and I've got to live off of that. This is all. I didn't go to school. I didn't work. Like, this is what I did, and so someone's got to die to take this from me. And when he said that, I pulled him aside. I said, hey, like, I don't know who you're trying to talk to, but that's not going to happen.
Good for you.
This is and they had more money than I did.
Yeah.
And that's always a fear, because, you see people in big companies get rolled out of their own company. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen. I took a little bit of drastic measures, and to the point where he couldn't do it. And then from that point on, I'm on my own.
Good for you. I'm glad to hear that story.
I was like, why'd I let someone get involved?
Yeah.
It was just, that's happened, numerous times over people want to take advantage. It's always people that like I said, it's always people you're helping out that want to take advantage, or that end up burning you. So I just kind of go into everything eyes wide open, and my circle's like that big, Typically it's me and my boys.
Yep.
And then my students, I love all my students when I'm here and coaching them, and I'll help them do whatever. But then when I leave, it's just, that's it. It's us.
Very cool. When you have that grit, like that street mentality, not putting it on anybody, but like you had the courage, he's coming to you like, no, I'm going to give you the 10% and beat it. You're like, at the end of the day, like, I'm going to win one way or the other.
Oh yeah.
You're not taking this from me.
That was me always when I was failing anything.
Yeah.
That's just a setback. I'm coming.
Yeah.
Like I never saw, this is it. Never. Like, couldn't even convince me of that I was done with anything. And like, Pat could beat me 3 times, and I'm like, I bet I beat him the fourth time. Let's do it again. And so that was just always I took lumps. Well, so just like you, took lumps well and kept moving forward. What's next?
What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Because they could call you and say, hey, you want to fight Pat next month? And what would your answer be?
Now?
Yeah.
I'd fight him.
Right?
Yeah,
That's,
100%. 100%.
You
that
get that
one's
look
going to
in
be
your
more
eye.
than the 3.
Yeah.
That one's going to be more than the 3 he won, 100%. I love Pat, and we're homies now, but in a heartbeat, in a heartbeat, I would fight him.
And that's not talking trash. It's just
no,
real
not
talk.
at all.
Yeah.
I love him, dude. He's an amazing fighter. He's a 5-time UFC champion, So of course I would like to fight him.
Yeah.
I guess it's just like Antonio wanting to fight me, but at the same time I could like Pat and want to fight him.
There's no bad blood.
Yeah, I'm not trying to silence him.
Antonio, the first time that guy came to my school, because we were filming for King in the Cage, pulls up like 6-8 cars deep, and the guy's in the back.
Yeah, he was sitting in your cage when he was talking about fighting me.
Oh.
Yeah, in the interview he was talking about fighting
me. But
it was at your,
they interviewed him at my gym.
Yeah.
That was so ironic. The guy shows up, he's watching porn, cleaning a gun in the back of his car. I'm like, what are you doing? This Newport Beach can't do that here. First time I met the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's from Long Beach, and he's a real deal.
Yeah, he's about it.
I hung out with him in my cabin that I had rented for my camp in Big Bear, and had a lot of conversations, and I was like, yeah, this he's a real deal.
Yeah.
He's all about it, for sure. So what are you doing now?
So since COVID, it shut down pretty much at that time, all the fights, nobody was doing anything. So I'm training a lot of successful individuals. I coached a kid for that YouTube versus TikTok, and then so like normally I'm an MMA guy, but recently I just kind of switched over. I got some pro boxers, and I've just been doing the boxing thing.
I've been watching for a couple of years now online, and a lot of boxing, real good boxing.
Like just
even just your shorts
thing.
You know, your short clips of the whatever of the day. You know, it's just been
thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you. Us being able to travel the planet,
yeah,
I've got to learn from the best.
Yeah,
like it's cool. Like, oh, it's my coach, and he's like #1 in the state or the county or whatever. I don't know what it is, but like been able to go around this planet so many times and learn from the best.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm like, why is this happening? And now, like, I get some big names and some good opportunities to come through the door. So boxing just kind of. Somebody hit me up the other day, like, hey, do you do any of that grappling stuff? I'm like, that's my bread and butter. I'm like, yeah, but we can do this whole boxing thing. So that's my thing lately is doing hands. I do a ton of hands, and I travel a ton.
Do you?
Yeah, like I envy you staying here at home and doing.
I did travel for a lot, but I prefer to be home. If I go, I've literally got on a plane, flew 24 hours to Australia. Got off, taught a 3-hour seminar. That morning, 2 a.m., got back on a flight and flew 24 hours home. Like, I just want to get home as fast as I can. Yep. And guys are like, you want to go out to eat? No, bro, just go back and pack.
Thank you.
And I my relationship with my kids is like next level.
Yep.
And so I cannot wait to get back and get with them, or not miss Luke's training sessions, or not miss Tyler's matches. I didn't miss like 600 matches between the two of them until one of them got to college and the other was in high school, and they both had a tournament, and I was racing back and forth between Richardson all day long while their matches were going on. And then one of them, the finals happened at the same time, and so I missed one. And then last year or the year before, I had gone to Tyler's, even though he's wrestling Division I. I'd gone to Southern Illinois, Northern Illinois, South Dakota, like traveling all over, flying everywhere to catch just one duel, one match, but just to not miss any. And
Good job, Dad.
And then this last year I missed some, being sick and stuff. So it sucked. And he's also had wrestling tournaments on the days Lucas has fought. Right. I was like, well, I got to be at the fight. I'm his coach. But
which he's understanding of, yeah.
Oh yeah, of course,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, for sure. He doesn't mind at all. But. And unfortunately, he's not been to one of Lucas's pro fights. Yeah, he was all 3 amateurs, but he hasn't gotten to go to any of his pro fights yet. So it's been a bummer. But at some point, maybe the one this summer or this June, he'll get to come to. But the wrestling at D1 level is no joke. Like when school gets out, he comes home for about 6-7 days, maybe 10 days, and goes back and takes a class and wrestles all summer at the RTC there and at the school. And then he comes home again for a week at the end, 2 weeks at the end, less, and then goes right back to school again, and season starts. But he's been gone now for 3 years.
Goodness.
It's terrible. When he first went, I took him. He didn't have a car yet. I took him. And me, him, and Luke were like the three amigos 24/7. Bro, I dropped him off. I hung out with him. I got in my car and drove away, and I had to pull over and just cried for 15 minutes. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so terrible. And I didn't want to make him feel bad. I wanted him to have a good time. And then I started driving, and then we started texting right away, and we're BSing back and forth. But neither one of my kids has ever had a sip of alcohol, ever, and or done drugs. And he messaged me a screenshot of one of his roommates 15 minutes after I left, and he didn't even know him yet, asked him to go get drunk. And I was like, man, it begins. But in school, I was just telling this story to PJ. In school, when they were starting high school, I said, I'll tell you what, instead of telling them don't drink, don't do drugs, I said, if you don't drink a sip of alcohol or do any drugs all through high school, I'll give you $10,000 at the end of high school when you graduate, but you're gonna take a lie detector test. If you fail, you owe me $1,000. If you pass, I owe you 10 grand. And they said, okay. Had I known they were going to get so deep into the sport and not really care about it, I forgot. Then I added in a $2,500 bonus if they didn't have sex during high school. I wanted them to
Good job, Dad.
Focus on
Good
their stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And focus on their training. And And sure enough, man, they flew right through. I owed him money. I paid him money. Lucas, starting college, says, you want to double or nothing on college? And I was like, you think you're going to make it through college without drinking? He goes, absolutely. And I was like, let's do it. So I owe you 20, you owe me 2 if I win. He goes, okay. And Tyler goes, same. And so Tyler is now the designated driver, designated everything for his guys, all his friends. And Lucas, he hangs out with people that drink and whatever,
for sure.
because it's hard not to.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do it, and everyone around him knows that he doesn't do it. And the rest, I think they handled the other thing like right after I paid them.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
But otherwise, it was they
deal with that.
smooth sailing. So it's been cool. It's made things easy. I don't have to deal with any of the things that a lot of other parents might have to deal with a teenager fighting, a teenager in the limelight, a teenager partying at school.
There you go.
It's made things very easy, and that keeps them respectable, and the other parents like them obviously and want to, but I think they're like the only kids out there. Luke Tyler's the only kid on the team that doesn't drink. He had one other friend that doesn't, and he left the team last year and moved back to Arizona. I was like, oh, bummer, because that was his homie.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. They're about to go to Florida for spring break, and he's going to be the designated everything while they're there. Oh, well.
That's the best story of the night right there.
But it was cool because I didn't say don't. You tell your kid, don't do this, or you're going to get in trouble.
It's not gonna.
They want to do it, right?
Yeah.
They want to do it. Even if you tell them it's wrong, it's whatever. But having them be always sober, they get to see all their friends get hammered and be like, bro, yeah, I don't want to do that anyway.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look, it looks fun for the first 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden, there's either a fight or drama or sick or, whatever.
Or the law.
Yeah, the law.
It's crazy,
the law
right?
for sure. And now, man, people are lacing stuff with some kid just died in Florida because he did coke and had fentanyl in it. He died. Another high-level wrestler smoked weed for the first time. Was laced with something. Went crazy. He didn't die, but he went, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit crazy, and ended up going through a little mental. Not a clinic, but like through a mental hospital for like 4 months, and it was a good, whatever it was laced with, he got messed up first time. That's what I was telling my kids, like, dude, it can be the first time, and like, I got it from my buddy. Yeah, but where'd he get it? From his buddy, who got it from his buddy. It's like, you don't know, So I just keep him, and I never had to enforce it. I just gave incentive, and it made it easy.
And it shows. Look at your kids right now.
Yeah, I got lucky.
Look at your
dude.
kids. That's not. I'm not,
Not
trying
to
to be
talk shit on their
That's
mom,
not lucky.
But her and me were not good kids, and don't deserve to have the kids that we have for sure.
Yeah.
My mom will always tell me, you're going to end up with, what you deserve. And I was like, well, probably.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. So I'm very fortunate. Thank you to my children for being the kids that they are.
And parents and kids watching this right now, take a lesson from it.
Yeah.
Because this is real talk.
Yeah.
Real talk.
Yeah, they're 20 and 21.
And crushing it.
Yeah. I never had anything.
Yeah, crushing it. That's so good. Yeah, good job, Pops.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So anything else? Where are you training? You want to shout anything out before we get out of here?
You know what? I'm just, I wish I could. I'm just so busy right now. Like, I'm kind of looking up and I was supposed to open up a gym in San Diego. It fell through. Bigger facility like this, but for whatever reason it didn't. So like I'm full time into the ministry and the church. So I've been told, I have a feeling that it's going to take me somewhere other than here. So that's always a possibility.
Sweet.
So
what's other than here?
Maybe Eastern Asia.
Okay.
So like I'm big into stopping sex trafficking. It's really bad over there. And they need guys of our expertise of what we can do, what we do or whatever.
Yep. I would love to do that.
And it's, for me right now, it's a good situation because my son's settled, like he's okay.
Right.
And like I can go, right. I'm gone all the time now. So go up there and kick in some doors and save some little kids.
Awesome.
Like that's my get down.
I was at a Tony Robbins seminar, 2017, And it was a week long, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But he's a madman, and we ran till like 11 or midnight every night, and then back at 9 a.m. But they had a big donation for Underground Railroad, and I donated $2,500 to the Underground Railroad thing there. And it was super cool because the guy got up there and talked, you know, and Tony just kind of hung out while they explained to everybody what was up. But it was they raised over $1.2 million in about 20 minutes with the people that were in the room. I was sitting next to the lady who invented Spanx. And then another lady on the other side of me that invented the popcorn that it's a big bag of, it's healthy popcorn. I forget what it's called. Skinny Pop. Okay. Skinny Pop. And then a couple guys that I'm still real good friends with that own car dealerships and other businesses. But it was all business owners. It was business mastery. It was 10 grand for 5 days. And
good for you.
And for me, it was worth it. You know, it was hard at the time to cover, but man, it was so worth it. And got to meet, you know, a lot of cool people. But that talking about the sex trafficking thing, the Underground Railroad is, I'm sure you've heard of it. It's a big part of that thing.
Yes, sir.
And we did a lot of donations that day or fundraising. And I was fortunate to be in the position to be able to donate as well. But
good job.
Yeah, man, that's awesome that you're doing that.
Yeah.
So cool.
So
I hope it does take you somewhere where you can travel and enjoy, you know.
Thank you.
Probably see some terrible things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, a lot of joy in the outcome of a lot of it.
I get that. Thank you very much. It means a lot.
Sure.
I get people ask me like, hey, what's a no rules fighter do when they retire? I mean, I'm still not retired, but like, I'm not going to go sit at a desk and do something like that. But yeah, you know, like I'm like, oh, Chuck one time said, like, yeah, I'm done fighting now, so I'm just going to pick my kids up from school, you know, go do the grocery shopping and stuff. I'm like, dude, who are you kidding? You know, so like that's just an avenue, and I'm in a good place for it where I can go, and so we'll see what happens.
You've done bodyguarding and stuff in the past, right? I remember you doing some bodyguarding for some serious people.
Some serious people.
Yeah.
And now I train a lot of bodyguards, or not a lot, but I train enough bodyguards that work for some serious people. The whole thing. So it just kind of weird. It's set up weird, and we'll see where this takes off.
Crazy quick story before we get out of here. During the time around when you had done some bodyguarding, my friend at the time his name's Frank Alexander. He was bodyguarding for Tupac. We were 2 cars behind Tupac when he got killed in Vegas that night. And Frank was in the car between us, and I was with my buddy Scott behind him. And for whatever reason, Frank wasn't in Tupac's car and always was. And Pac wasn't wearing his vest and always was. It was just a weird night, but we left the Tyson fight, and there was a fight in MGM Grand with Orlando something, a Crip, I think. And he had already had beef with Tupac, and they scrapped. And then everyone, boom, and it looks like you can watch the security camera. They show it online.
Yeah.
And like 30 people, look like a swarm of bees leaving the hotel. I think it was MGM or Mandalay, I forget which one. And then out the door. And then from that point, he left to go get dressed to go out, and everyone kind of did their thing and then met back up. And we were going down, I want to say it was Cobalt or one of those side roads.
Gotcha.
He got rolled up on. Chicks came up on one side, and he's like, da, 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 talking to the chicks. And then the other side came up and just blah, 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 and lit him up, and then they took off. Everyone went to him, and no one went to them until it was too late. People, by the time they realized we should go after them, they were gone. And it was a wild time, but I was literally 2 cars back when he got lit up. Frank Alexander ended up being a punk. I ended up getting in a fight with him at Family Fitness Center. You know, before it was 24, it was called Family Fitness. Yeah. And we ended up getting a fight in there over some stuff. And then he left. Well, later on, he does an True Hollywood story about Pac and everything, bodyguarding for him. He was his main bodyguard. And then writes a book called Got Your Back and kind of talks trash on Suge Knight. And then he found himself hung in his own house.
Yes, sir.
Suicide.
Yeah, of course.
Epstein, same way. Yeah. But yeah, he hung himself in his place. And but yeah, wild, crazy story. But that guy Frank was bodyguarding for a guy named Cash. It was an Iranian prince, and everywhere we went, $100. He would just open the door for him, $100. Like he was giving money out like it was cool. And I knew you had you had bodyguarded or did security for someone like that.
Yes,
sir.
Or
a few people like that. But that was a fun job, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's only a handful of people that can do that.
Yeah.
You know, because you have to have the personality with it too.
Did you carry or no?
No.
No.
Yeah. I had a CCW for whatever.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a self-defense situation. I punched the guy, self-defense. A bunch of people saw it, and the guy got $500,000 for it.
Oh man!
So the thing was, they go, okay, you got a CCW now. You're going to get in so much trouble. So I just kept it, and normally
where do you get that money from?
Insurance.
Wild.
Yeah, and a bunch of people saw the situation, and they go, no, I did what I did was self-defense.
Right.
And it was just kind of one of those things. But normally, if there's two of us working, you carry, and I don't.
Got it.
So
you go first, and the guy that carries goes second, in case.
Yeah, there's so much to it now.
It's a cool job though. Like can be a dangerous job depending on who you're working for. But I did a little bit for Tori Spelling, and then Janie Lane from Warrant. Yeah, right. Janie Lane from Warrant. Yeah, the tall guy, did some for him as well. But I
didn't know that. Good for you.
Not long, not like just a couple gigs, But I was wanting to at the time get into, somebody's full on personal security.
Yes, sir.
And get a job like that, but it didn't happen. But yeah, I was stoked when I heard you were doing that.
Thank you.
You're rolling around in a nice car and doing all sorts of fun
doing
stuff.
The dang thing. Yeah.
Awesome.
So now if we can go save little kids, it serves a purpose.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Todd, thank you so much. It was awesome to have you out here. It's great to see you after so long. Thanks for jumping on the podcast and doing this. And hopefully we'll get you back and, we'll see you again in a little while.
Dude, I'm so grateful for this opportunity and to see you and your success and your boy's success.
Thank you.
Like you deserve every bit of it.
Awesome.
Thanks, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
It is all over. Just like that.